Hey, this is Kristin with Drive Mode Show, and I'm here with my friend Rachelle Croft. Rachelle and I met through the Rebelle Rally, or maybe through Lexus, I think, a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been following along with what she's doing with Exhibition Overland. And so I'm excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start with tell the people what it is that you do with Exhibition Overland and what your partnership with your husband looks like and what you're working on.
Yeah. So about 12 years ago, my husband and I um, had this idea. Clay had this idea to start a kind of a documentary reality series all about overlanding. We had just learned about it. It was very new to the United States. And he comes from a cinematography background. So we thought, what a cool thing to put our passions and our hobbies together. Cool trucks, travel, and hopefully we could tell a really good story to inspire people to go travel and explore the world. So that is Expedition Overland to a T. We have traveled the Pan American Highway, some in Australia, other places all over the world, Russia. And this, our newest season this past year was the Nordic series. So we hit Norway, Sweden, Finland, Faroe Islands, and Iceland. And that 10-part series is debuting right now.
And that's all in one rig?
So we actually have three rigs because we film our own adventures. We primarily use Toyotas for their reliability and just amazing travel comfort. So this past series, we had a new Toyota Tundra, a 2021 Toyota Tacoma, and a 2015 4Runner with towing a Patriot Camper's X3 trailer.
I think the Toyota 4Runner is going to be here long after all of us are off of this earth. There's something about the 4Runner that's like a dinosaur, and yet it's just so capable. It's like a mountain
It
goat.
is. It is so capable. They're such a great size. They're one of my favorite vehicles as well.
So are you using different rigs in different locations for a specific purpose? Like how do you decide what you're driving where?
Yeah, good question. So it really depends on where we're going that year. We're actually planning season 6 right now, as we speak. And we look at the terrain and what vehicle platforms work best for us, whether that's a truck platform or an SUV platform. And then we kind of base that off of our decision making.
What kind of challenges did you have while you were on the road in these different rigs?
To be honest, for the Nordic, a lot of it was going through Europe. So there's not a lot of off-road type travel there because there really is no off-pavement capability. Um, However, once we got to Iceland and were able to go through all of the F roads in the middle, that was where a little more challenge came up. There's a lot of river crossings and sharp rocks and um, nobody to come get you. So that's taking the overlanding component into the off pavement component is really what we build these trucks to be able to do. Because at the end of the day, we need to be self sufficient. So that's the mindset behind these truck builds.
Yeah, one thing I was just talking about with my husband, he used to do off-roading when he was in high school out in West Texas. And he's like, we didn't have anybody to come get us, and that's
Yeah.
part of the safety feeling, the safety procedures and the feeling for the Rebelle Rally is that they put trackers on you. And you know that if you really get in a bind, somebody can pull you out of there, but you don't have
Yeah.
that. So what kind of recovery tools did you have to bring with you?
Yeah. So each of our vehicles is equipped with a winch. We also have max tracks, we have shovels, we have first aid kits, satellite phones, Garmin inReaches, and we also traveled with Starlink this year. Um,
Okay. Satellite
but
phone?
even no, it's the mobile internet, like satellite
Ah, very
dish.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but the biggest thing with all of that gear is the education behind how to use all of that gear. So every single person on our team, we put a very high priority on education and doing things the right way because you can have all the gear and not ever know how to use it, as you may have experienced in the Rebelle. If you
For
hadn't
sure.
practiced, just because
You
you have a
gotta
winch doesn't mean
practice.
you're going to use it or know how to use it well.
That's right. Just like navigation. If you learn to do it one
Yeah.
day and then that's it, you're never going to remember how to do it. You got to have some muscle memory there.
Yes.
So you mentioned a team. How many people are on
Mhm.
your team besides you and your husband?
So we have our company is kind of broken into different teams. Right now, full-time staff here on site in Bozeman, we have about 10 full-time employees. And then when we're on expedition, we bring in other team members that have camera skills, or, we can fly drones. We're all of those other things. And that's usually a team between 7 and 10 people as well.
So tell me what's the business model, right? You started this
Hmm.
business 12 years ago,
Hmm.
right? And
Yep.
what's the business model? What do the people on your team do? Like, how do you all make a living?
Yeah. So we're very unique in that there was no business model or path to what we wanted to do. Because when we started, um, YouTube wasn't even really a thing for what we did, because they only allowed videos shorter than 3 minutes long to be on YouTube. So we started on Vimeo. And in order to make a television show, you usually had to go to Discovery and get picked up by a network and get paid to go create whatever you were creating. So that was kind of when we started. We're like, well, that would be so cool to get to that point someday. Netflix wasn't around, like I said, like streaming platforms weren't around at that time. So we always filmed with the intention of hitting that level of the best we could be and do to maintain that quality. So because we didn't know anybody at Discovery, we started from scratch. Had no idea. You knew it. Didn't know anyone in the TV world or film world. So we knew that we would have to get creative with how this business model worked. And so we decided to go after sponsorships with certain products that we use, but we only wanted to work with the companies that we wanted to work with. This gear, we have to use it every day. We're living on it, we're relying on it. So we did a lot of cold calls and started really slow, but that's basically the model of how we were able to get funded to go on to start producing this content, because the audience can watch it for free on YouTube. Um, so yeah, money's got to come from somewhere.
You said, I want to live my life
Yeah.
off the beaten path and I want to share that life with others. Like that's what you wanted to do.
Yep. Yeah. We wanted to, um, one of the things we really wanted to was to show people that, I mean, all we had to compare it to was like a Discovery reality show. And we were like, well, I think we can do better than that, because we don't need to go on these trips and then fight with each other to create drama. If we're pushing hard enough and finding adventure and travel, that's the story. It doesn't need to be between us.
Agreed.
So,
That drives me crazy. And most of it's
yeah,
manufactured anyway.
it is. It is. It's all produced and manufactured. And so that was the other pillar to what we do. And we still live by this, is we don't go out and, chop a tree down and be like, oh my gosh, there's a tree in the road. We don't, we have to film the story as it happens. We do not have control over what's happening. So it's very documentary based with that reality kind of component to it. And we get back to the shop and see what we have and put a story together from what we've experienced.
Okay. And then the people that work on your team, they help you build as well as produce the show.
Hmm. So
And
we have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I say, how many episodes do you have finished so far?
Oh man, in the lifespan, we have over 200.
Wow.
Hmm. This past series, we took off. Oh man, we took off a lot more than we could chew, and we did 10 45-minute episodes, which is like 10 movies
Wow.
essentially. And it's still kicking our butts. They're still over there editing episode 7 right now, which goes out in like 2 weeks. So it's been a doozy.
And so if people want to watch it, they can go to YouTube.
They can, yes. And then we actually started our own streaming platform last year, which is called the Overlander Network. And so all of our episodes live there. And then starting this year, we'll have other content creators sharing their stories on our network as well.
As a woman, Rochelle, I don't imagine there's a whole lot of female storytellers doing this kind of work. And there's some, right?
Yeah.
And we're meeting more and more. But 12 years ago, I'm sure it was a different landscape. So tell me a little bit about what kind of how you got started and then where you took it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. You are absolutely right. It was a very different landscape. Um, I always grew up loving automobiles. I love being outside. I love travel. I love being off pavement. And I remember going to our first Overland Expo West in, gosh, 2011 or 2012. And I kid you not, I could count the number of women I saw in like one hand besides myself. And fast forward to now, and it's like 50-50. You see the whole family is getting involved. And that is so awesome to see. Um, so I also, before the Rebelle, that's actually when we met Emily Miller, was in 2011, who was promoting the rally in Morocco at the time, the Gazelle Rally. And so I actually started there in 2012. I did Morocco 3 times.
Oh my gosh,
Um, mhm.
that's intense.
It was intense.
I mean, how many miles is the Gazelle or kilometers?
Oh man, you know, it's pretty close to the Rebelle. The miles are just different because they're straight lines. And so
Hmm.
it's just you're getting tossed around in a truck for 9 days as opposed to getting to be on a lot of roads.
Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds brutal.
it is. Type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun.
Yeah,
And we were just talking about the different levels of fun and like
yeah,
what's really fun, like, haha, this is so fun. And like what's fun, maybe not right now, but later you'll look back and think it's fun. So yeah, that's one of those things. So you
yeah.
competed in Morocco across the
hmm
desert for 3 years from
hmm
2011.
So I did 2012, 2014, and 2015.
Okay. And
hmm
then
So while I was competing there, we were still filming seasons for Expedition Overland. So we did our first Alaska season in 2013. We did Central America in 2015. And then 2017, we did South America. And 2016 was the first year of the Rebelle. Um, so it was just kind of, I don't know, I was really passionate and I still am of just wanting to get more women in the space, get more women involved, and helping teach women, um, just dipping their toe in the water and having them put a truck in 4-wheel drive for the first time. And it's been an amazing thing to see how much the interest there has grown. And Emily has had a lot to do with that on the Rebelle side. And then you see other women traveling the world. There's women traveling the world by themselves on motorcycles with these incredible stories to share. And it's really inspiring to look around and start seeing all of these women coming together for the same purpose, but they're going at it in different ways. And I think that's really beautiful.
are you also teaching women how to off-road? Are you doing any classes or how are you inspiring or interacting with other women that may be interested?
Yeah, so I'm not at the moment. I have in the past at expos and like the Northwest Overland Rally. We started a women's only class there several years ago. I started a ladies' night at Overland Expo West years ago, just to kind of gather everybody up together in one space and hang out and chat. And then I would teach a few classes there. So I'll come in and help Emily out sometimes as well. But
Okay.
what I would like to get to that point as soon as I can to actually get some official classes on the books and have that be part of my yearly cadence. So
What do
it's
you
coming.
want? It's coming. It's coming. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Sounds good.
What message do you want women to know about the
Mm.
kind of things that you do, overlanding and really finding a lot of self-sufficiency? It's like the movie Wild, but with a car.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing And this, I'm always reminded of this anytime I go on a trip or step into an adventure, is that you are so much more capable than you think you are. And you will never know how capable you are until you're put in those situations to stretch those muscles.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Just one Rebelle Rally under my belt, and I'm like, whoa. I never
Yeah.
thought I would do that. And people are always so fascinated. Like, what made you decide to do that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't
Uh-huh.
know, but somehow I did it.
Yeah. I think there's something, at least for me, there was, and this was why I did the first rally in Morocco too, is I have three young boys and I had very young boys at the time when I did that. And I just needed a challenge, something different, so different and out of my wheelhouse. And I needed a kick in the pants to like do something really hard. Um, and my, I love counseling, by the way. So I remember my counselor looking at me. He's like, most women might like take a cooking class or learn a new skill, and you flew to Morocco and did a rally. I was like, I know.
Go
I don't know
big
what
or
to tell
go
you. I
home.
have to go big or go home. I don't know any other way.
How old were your kids when you did the first rally, and how old are they now?
So my youngest was two, not almost two. My middle was about three or four, and then my oldest would have been five or six.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you're like, honey, I think I'm gonna take this trip to Morocco. Are you good with that?
Yeah. And we were starting XO at the same time and, very much startup phase. And we had a lot of conversations just as husband and wife of like, hey, is this okay? Because I know that this is going to take a lot. This is going to take a toll on the family. It just is.
Yeah.
And he knew that it would be an amazing thing for me. So we made it happen.
And what do your boys say now? What did they say about what you do?
They really love it. Uh, it depends on their ages because now I've done enough rallies and gone through the ages where sometimes they're like, "Yeah, go mom," and they're drawing pictures of, you know, running across the desert and all this stuff. And then you hit the phase where they're like, "Why do you have to leave? This is dumb. You shouldn't go. I want you here with me." I'm like, "Well, I understand that, but in order for your mom to be healthy and doing her best thing and go after what she's passionate about, this is something that's really important to me, and you will thank me for this later." So we've also had those conversations. Um,
Yep,
and
those.
then, yeah. And then a lot of times their teachers thought they were lying. They were like, your mom's doing what, where? Uh-huh. Sure, kid.
Sure she
Okay.
is. Yeah, the
Yeah.
dog did your
Uh-huh.
homework too.
Exactly. So we've had those conversations, especially from, little Belgrade, Montana. Um, but now it's really cool. They ask me like, Mom, are you rallying this year? Are you going back this year? And they get all into it and excited and they're tracking me on their phones every day while we're there. And it's, it's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I mean, because finding that balance as a mom is really challenging. There's really,
Hmm.
I don't think they're in there, you can ever really achieve that full balance, but
No.
you can find that tipping point kind of where you're figuring out which are the rubber balls and which are the glass balls that you don't want to break,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
it's different than if you're a single person embarking on all these amazing adventures. It just has a different approach that it requires.
It does. And, I wrestled with that a lot. I wrestled with a lot of mom guilt, and sometimes I still do because our family operates and looks very different than a lot of people's families. Um, and I would get really stressed out about the just work-life balance and how much time we were away from home and versus when we're here and I'm missing my kids, soccer game or birthday party or whatever that looks like. Um, and over time, I've just realized Clay and I have had this conversation a lot together. It's it's a concept we've just thrown out the window. There is no work-life balance to some extent because your life is changing. You have different seasons of your life, and you're going to go through seasons where, yeah, you're putting in a little more time at work because maybe you're starting a business. And then on the other end, maybe you're stepping out of a business or retiring and you get to be at home more. So I just, I try really hard that when I am home, we are very intentional with quality time. I'm not, we're not sitting here checked out on our phones, even though we're home, doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
actually really there. And that's been working really well for us. I'll let you know when they're out of the house and hopefully contributing members to society. But so far it's going okay.
Well, I have a 13-year-old, and I know when I came home from the Rebelle Rally, like that was hard because I was gone for 2 weeks and couldn't
Yeah.
really talk to him for the most of the 8 days. But I got home, he said, "I'm really proud of you, Mom." Like he doesn't always have that same affinity for cars that I do and
Yeah.
vehicles and that whole experience, but for him seeing me do it, I think it's something good, especially for boys and girls to see in different ways.
I agree. And I know growing up, just in my generation, growing up, I heard a lot. Well, I used to do these things, but then I had you kids and I didn't do that anymore. It was always just like, well, why? Why wouldn't you just keep doing what you love? I never want you to. And sometimes there is that, there's women who adore being moms and they're so good at it. And I love that. I'm not saying this is like a blanket statement across the
Of
board,
course.
but
Yeah.
for me, it was like my best self is still pushing myself and challenging myself in other areas, along with being a mom and being at home and all of these things. So, and I feel like even now my boys are starting to date. My oldest is 17, almost 18. And I'm seeing even the girls he's choosing to date, and they are very independent and they're, like they've got their stuff together. And I would have these conversations even with the boys. It's like, well, pick someone who wants to be not super independent, but pick someone who's got vision for their life and they've got goals they want to achieve just like you, and you could come together with your goals and look at how far you can go. And so
Yeah.
it's just a little bit of a different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we parent and parent through different phases of their life, and I mean, it's all very interesting and
Yeah, it
different
is
challenges come up,
for
you know,
sure.
so so how about, you mentioned goals just a second ago. What are some of
Mhm.
your upcoming goals and yours and Clay's, as a
Mm.
family? What are you working toward next?
Mm. So we are actually working toward this summer, filming our next series, which will be an international series, and I can't tell you where yet, but this will be the first time the entire family would go to an international location altogether for an extended period of time. Um, in years past, the boys have been not quite old enough because we film everything and do everything ourselves. The boys have to be able to film. They have to be able to drive. They have to be able to contribute in some way. You're not just along for the ride. Um, so it takes time to build up to that. And so this is my oldest last summer before his senior year of high school. And we get to go have this hopefully amazing experience as a family, um, kind of as a final summer all together, which is
Whoa.
so bittersweet. And I can't even
Yeah, we
wrap
just
my
can't
head
go into
fully around it. But
that.
yeah,
When do we find out where you're going?
we'll be announcing it at Expo West in May.
Okay. And that
Yeah,
is that the one in Flagstaff?
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's a really fun event. It's the largest Overland Expo event out of all of them.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I cannot wait to see you and follow your adventures. I know I drove with you a little bit when I came to cover the Rebelle Rally, and
Oh
you were
yeah.
driving a Lexus GX, I think. Was it
Yes. Was that in 2019 or 2020
2021?
or one?
2021.
21. Okay,
Yeah.
yep. So I was in the J201, which was the Lexus, basically LX that we had built for Lexus.
Yeah, that was amazing. It had some really
Awesome.
cool features on it. And when you're there's different ways to do rallies like that. You can do it bone stock, and you definitely
Yeah.
could do a Lexus LX bone stock. I know Ivan Stewart, motorsports legend. I mean, he
Yeah,
said those Lexus SUVs, you can just pull them off the lot and take them anywhere in the world, and they'll pretty much
you can.
deal with it, which is funny because they're such a luxury SUV that you wouldn't think of, but they've got the
They
goods.
are. They're a Toyota Land Cruiser platform. And so you take a Toyota Land Cruiser, which is built to go 400,000 to 500,000 miles around the world in third world country conditions, and you add a little more luxury to it, and there you
Yeah.
have a Lexus.
Thank heaven for seat heaters, I'm telling you.
Oh yeah. Yes.
All right, Rochelle, well, thank you for your inspiration and your time,
Yeah.
and we will be looking for you and watching for the next season.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.